Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mrs. Brew? Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Manning?
Here. Here.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Make a motion to excuse Mayor Brew.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Can we have approval of the minutes?
Motion we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 6, 2024.
Or
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Okay, approval with anything on the manifest, 2024-10?
I have nothing. Thank you.
No.
No. Mr. Morrow?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
No, not Mr. Mayor. I've got nothing for tonight, so if we could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve manifest 2024-10, the amount of $335,373.23.
Support.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Nothing on here for the previous manifest, so let's move on to public comment. Any item of interest, anyone in the audience wishing to address the council on any item of interest shall do so at the podium. State your name, address, and for record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. The council will not engage in discussion or debate during public comment. If the matter needs further discussion, the council may direct the manager to place the item on a future agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that has anything on the agenda? Item?
No, not on the agenda, anything.
Any interest?
What, anybody wants to talk about anything?
That's Mrs. Paul.
Fourth grade.
Pretty exciting. This is their first city council meeting. We're here today to invite you. We are having a museum project on May 29th, which is Wednesday, at the Jake Mangini Museum. And these kids, my students, Mr. T's students, we researched different characters in Norway, and they put together two presentations, one at 10 o'clock, and it lasts, you can cut 10, and then one at 12:30. And what the kids are doing, it's like a living wax museum where they act out important characters in the history of Norway, and you can come and check out the show. We did make, who has the invite? Can you? Each kid invited the person that they interviewed, and some of the characters. Let's tell them some of the characters that you researched. One of them is, tell them who you researched.
I'm Jake Mangini.
So he'll be Jake Mangini. How about you? Ann Odell from the Odell House.
Mm-hmm.
Vi Peterson.
She was a teacher in Norway schools.
Bob Danielson.
Police officer, Bob Danielson, you know Danielson's greenhouse. You're a greeter, so you'll be greeting.
Barb Perry.
Award-winning coach.
Barb Perry.
And we have other important characters coming too. But we just wanted to invite you all and let you know about the exciting things that we're doing in our school. And we really like seeing our principal in action here.
Very
So
nice.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
kiddos.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, kids.
Anybody else with any interest? Okay, we move on. Public comment, agenda items. Anyone in attendance wishing to address the council on an agenda item shall do so at the podium. State your name and address for the record. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. The council will not engage in discussion or debate during the public comment. If the matter needs further discussion, the council may direct the city manager to place it on the further agenda. Nothing?
So I'm really here to support Miss Patricia Kuhl's statement. I think she has some things she'd like to say out of maybe hearing of the kids, if that's possible. I think she just doesn't want to potentially offend anyone, or I'm not sure. But I'm just here to support her and let her speak. But I think she was a little nervous to come up and ask the kids to maybe step out. Or thank you. My name is Mary Helen Hall. I'm a Norway resident.
The last name is spelled K-U-H-L. Cool, but it's difficult. And I am Patricia. The reason that I came is I live in the apartment complex that was the old hospital, okay? And in the evenings, a lot of times I sit outside. There were some boys walking that went by and to the next block, and then I heard one of them say, "Well, I'm not going to do that like a dirty nigger." And I said, that will not cut it. That word of our black people is long gone. Now, where are these kids hearing this? There's a parental thing here somewhere. Either that or the school's teaching it, but that, we can't have that. It's that type of thing that grows as the youth get together and they use these words, think it's kind of cute or whatever. I'm just very concerned about that. She's my neighbor. Her husband is of black color, and so is the little boy. So, do we already have people that meet this terrible name that was used? Yes. And it was upsetting to him and to her. And it certainly was to me. I think the teachers need to be aware of maybe what they're hearing and maybe aren't saying something. When the kids are out, around the school, that type thing. Either that or parents are being poor parenting in progress or something. The other thing that I wanted to bring up is I was sitting outside again, and I saw two boys go by, and one said, "Don't worry about it, I've got a gun. I'm carrying a gun." He was, if by the size of him, 13. We don't need our teenagers loaded walking down Main Street. We have a problem. And the other was a group of girls walking down the other side. And their language like, "Oh no, I have to find something to play with tonight." It's disturbing to me that we are having this happen. And it's always on Main Street because that's where I live. 400 Main. And the idea that it seems to be usually dusk or darker. And the police come up the alleys, but I very seldom see a police officer going down Main Street. Very seldom. And I'm out every night, sitting in my chair, because I like to be outside. I don't want to be tied to four walls around me. I love the outdoors. But these things that I'm seeing and hearing, I think need to be looked into, however you would want to do that. And I think that we need police coverage a little bit more on Main Street when it gets to be, well, Pat's is still open, so that gives you a time frame that it's starting. So I just wanted to get that here so that you know that some of our kids are not acting too good, and I definitely don't want to go on, I've got a gun, don't worry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? All right, move on to the actionable items. Item number 1, public hearing. Mr. Stoltman?
So this is our public hearing for our 2024-2025 budget. This includes everything, but council to start this needs to motion to go into public hearing.
Motion in a public hearing.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Mendes?
Yes.
Mr. Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
So this is the open public hearing for the 2024-2025 budget. This covers all operating, enterprise funds, tax millage, fee schedule, everything. This is a culmination of 7 budget workshops that were done over the course of 2 months. So after each of those budget workshops, we took council's discussions and wishes, and we molded this budget after each meeting to develop this final draft budget that sits in front of you. Tonight is for the community to ask questions about the 2024-2025 budget. Tonight, I'm not asking council to approve this budget. I'm looking, hopefully at June 3rd. I like to kind of have the public hearing first, and then give it, another week or so until the next meeting for actual adoption. We put this in the paper. We have the copy in the back of this packet. So all the resolutions that we will be approving on June 3rd, most of them are in the first few pages. Then you have all of the detailed line item for each fund, general fund, enterprise funds, and in the very back you have 2 more resolutions. So with that, I'll open it up to the council and to members of the public if anyone wants to discuss anything further.
Anybody have any? Anybody from the audience have anything? Nothing. Brett, got anything?
I do not, thank you.
Somebody again?
No, I think we went over this quite extensively in 7. Felt like more. Separate budget committee. Rather lively discussions on quite a few, knowing that nothing is set in stone yet. No, nothing to pour over again.
Yeah, we had those 7. Those were all open to the public in the evenings. We had one every Monday for about 2 months. The idea of the workshop is to get this kind of a very working draft that we hope that what we have here is what we'd like to approve on the 3rd. If we make changes on the 3rd, that means we have to postpone that and then have to put it onto another meeting because any change affects numerous other things within that budget.
I'd like to thank everybody that had their hands in this. Mr. Stolman put a lot of time in. The council, I apologize because I was out of town for a month for training. And I know there was a lot to this budget, and I'm thankful that they were able to work through it.
I don't think you addressed Councilmember Marrero if you had comment.
Just because I'm
You
short.
asked me, you asked Brett.
No,
Just
I
because
asked
I'm short, I know you look right
Oh,
at the top.
Mr. Brower, you have any?
I'm good.
All right.
Just wanted to make sure.
Thanks, Rick.
I wanted it for the record, you didn't have anything to say.
First time for everything.
Well, we have no comments from the public, nothing from things, so we need to go back into regular session.
Yep, so you would, motion to close.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Support?
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Need to recommend?
No, I mean, I'm gonna have it at the third.
Okay.
Just if someone wanted to make something, suggest something different, but that isn't the thing.
Item number 2, Mr. Stolman.
So this came from our Public Works. It's a request to purchase a used truck bed to replace the current rusting truck bed of truck number 107. Our mechanic, Rick, said he was not able to be here tonight, but if council wanted further information beyond what I know of it, he's happy to come to another meeting. But essentially what his concern is that bed is at the point where it is unsafe, and as a certified mechanic, he is looking at red tagging it so it cannot be driven until it is fixed. So he provided 3 different quotes. His recommendation is to buy the used bed from Global Parts Solution out of Crystal Falls for $3,250. The other 2 options you see don't include freight, so they would cost more than the Global Parts Solutions, and we can go pick that one up on our own. Their current remaining budget in the maintenance line item is $35,000 for a vehicle that he feels is an overall decent working condition other than the bed. A used bed would put it back into operation for some time down the road. And with that current line item at 35, we can't absorb that 3250.
It's a rush. I've seen it. It's.
I apologize, I was trying to get pictures of the current one from him, but it just didn't
Was
quite
this
get
box taken off of the vehicle when they first got it? I mean, it's an older vehicle. Like, did they make it into a different type of truck, and that's why the box is sitting there? Like, hollow?
The one that they're buying, or the one that's
Yeah,
rusting?
the one that they're buying.
I'm not sure where these companies get these used truck beds from. I don't know that business. I mean, it certainly is in better condition than ours. They might have taken that off to make it a flatbed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I recommend that we purchase a replacement truck bed from Global Parts Solutions for $3,250.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Henning?
Yes.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes. Item number 3.
So this is the electric department's PLC upgrade. Scott Hagee from the electric department is here to go into this a little deeper. Council discussed this, I don't know if it was 1 or 2 meetings ago. The holdup there was we had some concerns with the language in the terms and conditions from the contractor. So council tabled that until our attorney could work with the contractor to have a better terms and conditions, which they have worked on that. That is in here. Also, any specific questions on that, our city attorney is best suited to answer the changes in those languages. I'll let Scott talk in deeper about the actual project. What I will just kind of say generally for this budget, with this project, we would expect to borrow $150,000 from the department's fund balance at the end of the year, which is absolutely fine in this circumstance. We have projected around $650,000, but that was with several large capital projects dependent on several grants, which we did not get. So when you have a fund balance, pushing that 40-45% in a project like this, that's absolutely acceptable. And we've already done another capital project in this year's budget of 100 or so thousand, and we're only looking at borrowing 150 of a project that is 276,000 plus 120,000 that came from an insurance claim to finish that project. So with that, if you have any questions directly about the terms and conditions and warranties from the contractor or city attorney who worked on that is probably your best. Yeah, to directly answer those, and Scott Hagee is here to discuss, if we want to discuss it again, the PLC project.
Yeah, it's the second time this has come before us, so I'm glad we got the answers we needed. I do have a couple quick questions. Scott Hagee, what's up with the contingency at 10%, 40 grand?
That was me. I put that in there.
Why?
Just because we've been talking about that at the last meeting about, getting into a project and being uncertain of things that you find out that you just weren't aware of. So I've discussed it several times. Again, we discussed it at that last meeting for the same reason. It is just a way that when you open the door and you didn't know that existed, we can continue on the project. So if you don't want to do contingency costs, that's fine.
Why, do you agree, do you see someone, what are the pitfalls for this project, Scott?
To Dan's point, we've been around Hyder long enough to know that there's always things hiding around the corner. With that said, this project here is basically phase 1 and 2. So we've done a lot more work on the front end of this. We don't know what we don't know. But if you don't go to the 10%, I can always come back to council for a change order, and we can pick it up. And when we do, we don't want to.
It's okay. So FDS has got a scope of work for us? I mean, I guess with the scope of work, I'm gonna question it again. A 10% overrun. What are the moving parts, I guess, in this whole thing that you guys are thinking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't have anything that I could point to that's gonna be that's gonna be our problem. I don't really, because we're really doing a complete replacement. We're not trying to
Yep.
you know what I mean, kind of hodgepodge things together. This is
That's kind of my point.
Yeah.
I worry that, we have a scope of work. It is a complete replacement. Why are we approving a $40,000 extra?
I just threw it in there as a discussion about the last time.
Well, what it does for me, and I won't speak for the other council members, it makes me uncomfortable about the scope of work. Right? So my question is, in a complete replacement, we should, to your point, Scott, if it's hodgepodge, we're kind of going in, it's a T&M type situation, no problem, I understand that. But we paid an engineering company to come in, design the solution, that's a replacement, and now you want us to give you 40 grand more on top of it. Or at least approval for 40 grand more on top of it. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm just saying, that makes zero sense to me. So, there, I said my piece. Number 2, Grant, you went through the warranties with FDS, you're happy?
Yeah, the original order, or the original proposed contract that had a number of limitations of warranties, those were taken out. He was using a standard form, which is, as I told him, I said I understood what he was trying to do, but it was a pleasant discussion with him regarding why we were not agreeable to basically they were trying to get rid of any and all liabilities. So it wasn't any warranties at all. It was no warranties and no liability, which
is a nice world to live in.
Yeah, it would be. So he understood our position and struck that.
And you're comfortable now?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
The only thing I would say before you motion is the total project is at 396, but 276, Scott, if I'm correct, is the FDS portion that we're outside of the 120 from the insurance claim. So the insurance claim money is going to there regardless, I guess. Grant, if you have a preference if they motion for the total amount, or would you prefer it, the 276, which is outside of the 120 from the insurance claim, if it matters in any way?
You can motion it that way. It's not a problem. Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay.
New money versus insurance claim.
Yeah, I think it should be broken down, our out-of-pocket cost.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if.
Phrase it like that.
Yeah, I haven't been,
Out-of-pocket
do we have the money? Has the claim been processed? Has it been deposited?
$75,000 over there. So that was given to us
Right away.
already. And we're just waiting to complete the rest of it in order to
we're fairly confident. Insurance companies can kind of get
Yeah,
squirrely.
I stay in contact with him periodically, like probably every 3 weeks, we email each other, let us know what the status is. He's very proactive. What he's afraid of, and he just wants to make sure that we don't get into a situation where we're losing generation, which would compound the insurance claim, which we're not. We're in good shape. We've been able to actually move things along to the point where we can do this complete replacement.
So it seems like it would make sense to break it out.
Yeah.
You know, our cost.
Yep. So your 276, 228 would be new money for the
229.
FDS.
Everything else is listed 229, so I think that should be 229.
We can do 229.
Okay.
And then the 120 would be
Okay.
the insurance.
The motion?
Yeah, I'll motion. I motion, we approve the PLC upgrade project as presented for new budget money of $276,229
Rounding up.
with an additional $120,000 in insurance money to finalize the project's total cost of $396,229. With no 10% contingency
Awarding to who?
awarded to
FDS.
FDS.
Sports.
Mr. Morrow?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Okay, we move on to discussion items. Item number 1.
So item 1 and 2 are related. So item 1 is just, and these are discussion items. These are things for council to have a discussion and kind of direct us to further review. And it revolves around the city's real estate sale policy. So we have a real estate sale policy that's included. The one thing we've come into is requesting to purchase properties that are not listed, approved for sale, and not listed as under review for sale. And so what do we do during those instances? And one thing the policy does say is it's about the city ensuring fair and equitable opportunity of interest in any city property. To me, that says it should be publicly listed before we sell it to an individual. So then, the next item is just that case. So my thought is letting the city attorney and I kind of start looking at the policy, and it can be fairly simple in the process of those properties that aren't listed or under review. And the ones under review say the planning commission is reviewing those. I just couldn't find anything that says planning commission takes on properties that are not currently listed. So my thought would be taking it to planning commission and then to recommend the council to list certain properties for sale. That's the basics of it. So that's a discussion piece. This is for you guys to kind of discuss and tell us what you kind of think, if you agree, and kind of, direct us on which way you want to go.
Well, I think any citizen should be able to show interest in a piece of city-owned property, be it listed or not listed. And at that point, yes, we need to have a process to move that forward, right? I mean, I think we're all here in agreement that citizens have the right to buy any city-owned property. So, yes, I think it's something we definitely want to, either tweak the process or make it easier, right, if somebody wants to buy property.
Yep. And some of it is also just deciding if there's certain pieces that we are not currently interested in.
Exactly.
And then that's kind of, can change, of course, as you go along, but that is just a part of that process. So this policy to me would just set up more for, again, ones that were listed that have a value attached and things like that.
Correct. And we all know the process is gonna, obviously, if something's not in the market, we have to probably get it appraised. There might be, maybe the people that want to buy it have to pay for that. That's part of the process, right?
And so, in the current policy for a private initiated, they come to us to purchase it, we do require that they do a certified survey and get an appraisal.
Yep.
So we wouldn't really want them to do that if we haven't decided if that property is even available.
Yeah, that would be the trigger.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that gets into that next item in discussion, so.
Anything else?
You like it?
Yeah, you know, we're talking about getting a real value and a price tag on stuff that's otherwise sitting there.
Correct.
So what we likely would do is, I'd work with Grant, and we would come up with just another piece of this policy that just discusses properties that are not listed and not under review, and give you guys a couple options of how we could go about that, and then come back at a later council meeting. So, Grant, do you feel like you need any sort of action on that?
No.
Okay. Would you like me just to go into number
Yeah,
two?
just go to number 2.
So number 2 is that same case. We had someone approach us, Mr. Rick Gustafson, about purchasing the property that abuts to his. And that's the case again. That property is not listed for sale, so the property you kind of see here. This is his property. He was interested in this large parcel here that has the mountain bike trails in it. I did misspeak on my memo. I misunderstood the real estate transactions when I read it. When you click on this, you see it on the county GIS, you see real estate transaction, but it actually encompasses the entire Springview subdivision. And so it was showing the last Springview lot sold, and I had it backwards. So the information here about that particular lot is wrong. In this particular case, it's more than just purchasing the property. It's a whole zoning thing with an addition of a garage. So talking to him, it was step 1, just talking about the property, and if the city would be interested in selling it, and that's where I got to the realizing of we need a process to actually have it listed if we wanted to do so. So in this case, if we had a policy, we would start reviewing it, looking at the buildability of it, looking at the public use of trails and whether or not, that is something we want to keep. If we want to look at squaring off of property in this case and rerouting the trails to make sure we still have a public component to it, because this trail system it connects to the larger trail system to the north. So several different.
Trails are great, but so is tax revenue. And I'm sure there's other things we can do with bike trails that, by the way, aren't city-owned. Just my two
How big
cents.
of a parcel is that?
I thought it was 7. I was having a hard time finding it in the GIS, the actual.
It's gotta be right.
Yeah, because his, I think, is around 4.
It's the pie-shaped piece,
this
right?
Yeah, this is about 4 acres here. So for somewhere, I thought it was 7.
From what I saw, it's pretty much unbuildable by itself.
It drops off.
If I'm
Yeah, it's a
thinking
big
of-
drop off.
if I'm thinking of that area, it's-
Yeah.
in that section of the trail, I mean, they could bump on the road right there for the
Sorry, Scott. but I mean,
400 feet that they have to.
I mean, if the city wants to get to the point of kind of that process of what to do with properties that aren't listed, if the city was interested theoretically in selling this, there's several things we could do with the trails. He was open to allowing the network to stay within the property as long as he's indemnified, which, that makes me a little nervous. Anyone can sue you for anything.
Yeah.
My suggestion to him, if we were interested, was cutting it here to square his property off, which is plenty of room to do what he wants to do if in fact he gets to a point that the zoning will allow, which currently it does not. So we could maintain the trail system and pop it up to the road early if we get to that point. So for tonight, this is just kind of an example of one, that first item's situation, and 2, a discussion on, public use. And, where we look at what we keep open for the public and in public hands, opposed to selling it for, a specific need. Now, our policy for selling real estate, it talks for an immediate economic benefit to the city or getting the absolute most value out of it. If we sold it to him in this case and building a new structure, it would certainly add to the taxable value. It's just you weigh that with, again, other public use. And again, get to this point too, just later on down the road, if we look at a parcel that we want to sell in combination with several steps of having to change something to even have what you really want to do to be approved through zoning, we've got to go, it should go in conjunction. We don't necessarily want to sell a property to do something that we don't know if we're going to be allowed to do yet, and then you've lost the property and didn't get the return on investment.
Rick has come and talked to me several times about this, and I do agree. I said there has to be a contingency, with the zoning board on, here's my offer contingent on the fact that he can do what he wants to do there, and it goes through the proper channels.
And to himself, he did state that in his form, that, it's contingent upon that. And that's a long road. That's gonna, what he wants to do in the zoning aspect of it, that's gonna take some changes that would start the planning commission. So again, as a discussion piece, any thoughts from the council on this particular matter? Again, nothing, there's really no action to be taken.
I think we just do our due diligence and move forward.
Yeah.
All should do.
Yep.
See if it's even valuable to do or not valuable or what it is, but I think we still do the right thing and take some time to check into it.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep. I think the first step is to kind of get that process.
Yeah.
The mechanism.
Yep.
Correct.
By which
And
to do
then,
it.
yep,
Yep.
correct. So, that is all I had on that piece.
All right,
Nice.
that's it. We're down to mayor and council comments. Mr. Kramer? do you have any?
One question, I guess, more than anything is, where are we at with the pavement bidding?
So that bid opening is next Wednesday. Look at my calendar. This Wednesday at 10.
So we should know the next meeting.
Yeah. You have a meeting that,
It should be up actually for approval next May
yep.
Okay.
on the agenda.
All right. So, thank you.
Mr. McGee?
Very nice to see young people here. Definitely recommend heading out there to the Wax Museum. Ms. Paul does a great job. It's nice to see that area with such a high volume of traffic on those days. It's, wish it could happen more. One day, maybe Mr. Pop will have a Wax Museum person dedicated to you. There's a career goal.
No.
Something to think about.
Mr. Morrow?
Yeah, I'd like an update from Grant and Dan on the blight stuff that we've been talking about, the ongoing thing with, damaged homes, abandoned vehicles, just things that are not meeting our blight and maybe possibly safety ordinances.
Yep. Grant was working on kind of a 3-base letter that we send out, warnings and then different actions. And we were reviewing the dangerous structure. Dangerous structures are I think the easier of the blight because they should be pretty obvious when half the home is missing. That is a dangerous structure that we can then start the process of raising the building and going down that road. The exterior aesthetics of a property is still the tougher one to figure out how we approach that. Buildings with broken windows, holes, things like that, we can require them to board those up so you can't make entry. And then beyond that, again, trying to figure out the best way forward. If we can get people to turn properties over to us that are dilapidated enough, or if they want to tear down but can't, but turn it over, we can get grants to tear those down, but they have to be in the city's name. It isn't for private, and that's been the problem amongst all the cities and the townships in the counties, that the money is there, but they have to get the properties deeded over to them.
Correct. Have you talked to Mr. Bizek about that then?
I haven't talked to him yet. I talked to him before a while ago, but I got to touch base with him again.
All right. Where are you at with the letters?
Working on those. Also talked with the magistrate and the clerk's office up at county. Expressed our frustration, and the discussion that I had with them, the feedback I got was that this is not just limited to Norway with the frustration. Without getting into all the details, some of the enforcement mechanisms have changed in the last few years with some reform legislation that's kind of affected the ability of the courts to take action like they have in the past. So it makes it a little bit more bureaucratic, more steps, more ridiculousness, to be frank. Have recently authorized a couple different tickets to be issued that were brought to my attention. In addition to that, we talked about, with the magistrate, talked about perhaps discussing things with our local judge on how to perhaps fast track and or have a more efficient way to enforce some of the non-compliance of the tickets. Sounds like she may be willing to be of help. I think it's within her jurisdiction. So we're hopeful that with that might move things along a little more quickly. The last thing we want to do is, and it's an option, but we don't want to necessarily have to start filing lawsuits to get compliance, because nobody wants to spend money on attorney fees. It takes time to go through the court process. But that's part of the ticketing process. You have a history to look back on to be able to cite to and look at and say, we've issued 15 tickets, nothing's been done, they haven't been paid, there's no compliance, and basically bring out the hammer at that point. But again, it's not as efficient as it should be, in my opinion. But if the way the legislature has set some things up, it takes things a little bit more slowly. And some of there were licensing issues that were one of the things that courts had at their disposal. Driver's licenses don't get pulled anymore. But there's other mechanisms that the court, I think, has at their disposal to perhaps push things along. I know it's an issue everywhere, for that matter. And we're brainstorming and come up. We're pursuing at least one different idea done in Menominee, and we're getting some progress. So we've talked about perhaps implementing it here locally as well, but kind of see how things play out. But if our local judge is willing to maybe move things along with assisting on some of these blight tickets and trying to move it quicker, that might be helpful.
And some of it could just be as simple as I could just send letters to certain properties discussing the concern and just seeing what their willingness is to work with us, or if they're interested in, again, turning over a property. At least that gets the conversation out there.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I'd love to receive some sort of education on that grant, like what is stopping this process? You know, not now, but if there's something you can send me in a digestible bite that I can understand, because this is what I have conversations about.
Stopping or more efficient, because tickets are being issued, as far as I know. Tickets are being issued.
Yeah.
It's some of the fallout and or the ramifications for folks that do not comply and or don't pay the tickets.
Just some more details on that. Not now. If you could send me
There are
a
two
one-pager or something.
There's
I
two
I don't need it now.
Okay.
And I would like you two to come together and come up with a deadline on the 3-letter process you guys are talking about. Let's put a date to it. Let's get it done. Fair?
Yep.
Update next meeting?
Yep.
Cable? Anything?
I just sent an email to them today about setting up a meeting with our bond council. That was the next step. So we got back from our bond council a few different dates, so I just sent that to our team today.
That's another thing. Thank you for bringing it up. I was approached today by a community member saying that, what is it, Highline? That they're going door to door, saying, hey, you better hurry up and switch to us before June.
I've heard that today.
In essence,
I heard that today.
saying what someone else told me. I know that's not a direct quote.
Yep.
And I'm assuming they're using that June number as a deadline.
And I don't know where where that June number came, but I did hear that today. But no, there is no deadline. There is no agreement for our cable system. It's still ours. It's still operating, and there's nothing beyond that at this point.
Well, it sounded like I told her, I said, it sounds like some high pressure sales tactics.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I said, just
For
be
them.
careful of that, but people know something is happening.
Right.
But in the absence of any information, they might start to fear the worst and get sold by some con man.
Right.
So if
Well,
there's anything
part of it
that
too,
can be
because when I did realize it, I was gonna look on it, I think they have to get their peddler permit to go house to house as a sales, just so people do know that they have a permit and that they're a legitimate individual. So, but yeah, that was brought to my attention this morning.
Sorry, I guess I did have a couple things to say, other than Scott's Wax Museum potential.
Thank you for the update. Short of that, I just want to tell everybody have a nice, enjoyable Memorial Day holiday weekend.
Natalie, got anything?
No,
Sure? Just a smile?
just a smile.
Once again,
Nothing for me.
the lady of
Mr.
few
Carlson?
words.
Nothing, thank you.
I have nothing for tonight either. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion we adjourn.
Support.
Gavel, come on, gavel.
Yes.
Mr. Mankey?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.
Attaboy.